Hi everyone, Agent Liu here. So we're starting now with another tutorial on the C programming language. Okay, I believe this is part 6. Well, on the last video, let me open the file here. Oops. Okay, so in the last video we've talked about switch statements, how it can simplify the case of using various nested in series if statements, if else statements, how it can make your code more improve the readability of your code. Okay. And while in some sense it can be considered a loop, since it will iterate through some of these elements, it's actually not a loop. And on this video we'll be talking about loops itself. Okay, we'll talk about for loops and while loops and other things that will come up. So create example 8. Okay. So include standard IO .h, create a main function, curly brackets, return 0, and let's say we want to print all numbers from 0 to 10 on the screen. Okay, so how we would approach that problem? Well, the one way to do it, and it's let's call it brute force way, and not so smart way of doing it. It's we declare a variable here called num, initialize it to 0, and then we print a number here, and then we increment. This is called the increment, post increment operator, and you can also write it as this. However, there is some difference here, but usually you write it as this, and then you print like this again, and then we will do this 11 times to print all the numbers from 0 to 10. So let's check it out. Let's see example. Let's use warnings all flag here. Okay, so apparently no problems. Okay, so you will do that 9 more times, and it's really a cumbersome way of doing it. And as we are programmers, we are by definition lazy, so we want to do that with the least amount of work. Okay, so that's a basic rule of programming. Least amount of work for us and for the machine as well. So what we do here is let me get rid of this initialization here. We can use for this a for loop. Okay, so it's a reserved keyword in C for num equals 0, num less than 11, because we don't want it to reach 11. We could also use less or equal 10, so let's use less equal to 10, and then we increment this number until we reach 10. That's basically what is written here. So for number num equals to 0, and for num less than equal to 10, we increment this number, and when we reach this condition over here, when number is less than equal to 10, then we exit for loop. So let's check it out. We open curly brackets. Remember, here we are entering a different scope. Right now I know this doesn't make much sense to you, the issue regarding scope, but we'll see in another videos how that works, and perhaps on this one as well. So okay, so now we expect here to see all numbers printed on the screen from 0 to 10. Okay, so we write and quit, compile, and run, and here we have all numbers from 0 to 10. What if we only wanted to see the even numbers? So one way to do it, like, you can write as this. So this will increment this variable here by 2, so we will see all even numbers, and we'll write and quit, compile, run, and here we go, all even numbers from 1 to 10. Another way to do it is to increment one by one, and we can check if this number is even, like using the reminder operator, which is a percentage sign, if you remember from the previous video. So if num if the rest of the division of num by 2 is equal to 0, it means it's an even number. Okay, so let's print percentage d is even. Okay, else it means that it's not even. Okay, so else, open curly brackets, print f percentage d is not even, it's odd, it's an odd number. Okay, oops, and we write quit, compile, run, oops, is even. Okay, so 0, okay, one may argue that 0 is not neither even or odd number, but that's another discussion. We leave that for the mathematicians. So 1 is odd, 2 is even, 3 is odd, 4 is even, and so on. Okay, so that would be one usage of a for loop. Okay, another very useful loop we use, let me create another file for this. Example 9.c. include standard.io.h main void another useful loop I will use, include std bool here to use true and false in C. Another useful loop is while. While checks a constant condition, and while this condition is true, the statement between the scope defined in the scope of the while loop will keep repeating itself until some condition, this condition is false, and then it exits the loop. So let's say you want to create an infinity loop. You just make your program run while true prints to infinity and beyond. Okay, so what this will do, it will print this message infinitely, okay, because there is nothing that would change this condition over here. So this true will always be true, and your program will execute indefinitely. So let's see let's see this happening. Okay, and we compile example 9.c, and we execute it. And what do you think will happen here? Okay, so my screen is about to be flooded, yes, and voila. So how do we exit this? There is no condition to exit the while loop, so we just press Ctrl C and voila, I killed the program. It is terminated. So let's write a while loop that has a condition that is and when it is met, then we can exit. So let's create a variable here called num and initialize it to 0. And let's say while num, let's do the same thing as the program before. So while num is less than 11, we print this number on the screen. Okay. And okay, so this will print all numbers from 0 to 10 on the screen. Oops, I forgot to include the argument here. So as you can see, the GCC compiler is very useful in debugging. It is very explicit and explaining what was the error on this case. Okay, so warning: format %d expects a matching int argument. So as you can see, it pointed here, line x, it shows the line in your code and the column. So actually, if you want to go to VM and start right, and the line that is being broken in your code, you can type the plus sign and 8, and there you go, you are in the line 8, and here it is the column number 12, okay, as specified by the compiler. So we compile and run. Oops, we got a problem here. So what happened here? Of course, we didn't update this num right over here. Remember that in the for loop we specify between parentheses how we wanted this number to be updated, but right here in the while loop we only have one argument, one condition to be checked after each iteration. So here we have to write another line inside here, and you can type as this if you want, or simply num plus plus. So at each iteration, this while loop, it will increment this number, this variable by 1. Okay, and compile, run, and now we got the desired result. Before I finish this video, I want to show you another way we can do this. So let's create an infinite loop, and we need to implement an exit condition for this while loop, otherwise it will print infinite many numbers here. Okay, so if num is greater than 10, and we want to exit this while loop. Okay, and how we do this? We use same keyword we utilize in the switch statement, which is break. This command here will make the code exit the while loop. So okay, so at first it will print 0 and then check if the condition is met, and then it increments the number. So as you can see here, when it types 10, it will increase the number. Okay, so it would iterate one more time, and then it will increment again to 11, and then it will eventually print 11 here. Okay, you can see the problem right here. So before we print, we must check. We must do this checking before printing the number. Okay, so I'll move this over here. Print F, then the number. Okay, so now we want to print 11. So we compile, run, and as expected, we got all the numbers from 0 to 10. Okay. So on this tutorial, on this video, we've seen how to work with for and while loops, how we can implement exit conditions on while loops, and there is another loop that we haven't worked with, which is do while loop. So let me create another file here before I finish this video, otherwise it will be incomplete to not mention it. So standard IO, I don't know if I'm using this one, but that's just include over here, std bool. And what is different between a do while loop is that it will first execute this line here, and then it will check for the condition inside the while loop. Okay, so let's initialize variable num to 0, do print, let's print num here, and while num is less than 1, increment. Okay, so let's see what do you think it will happen here. Okay, so let's check it out. So we compile example 10. What seems to be the problem here? Okay, so the problem here was that in a do while loop we open curly brackets on here, only here, okay, and then we end with the semicolon here. So we will first execute this line of code, and then we will check for this condition over here. Okay, and let's increment num here. So what do you think will happen? Okay, it will first print 0, then it will increment, and it will check for this condition, and if this condition is not met, it will exit the loop. Okay, so we compile and run. Oops, I forgot to include \n here. And of course the loop only executes once, because as you can see here, as soon as we print this line, we increment the number and then we check for the condition, and as this condition is met, then we exit the loop. Okay, so hope you guys like this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe and comment, and see you next time. Bye.